Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Good morning. So thank you all so much for coming to this morning's session. I know there were a lot of activities going on yesterday and last night, so I really do appreciate all the effort you all put forth to make it into the session today. So my name is Nick Smith. I'm a member of the BLADE initiative, which is the sort of educational arm of BlerDCon, and of course stands for Blurs Leading and Advancing Diversity in Education. Outside of BLADE, I'm a professor at the University of Maryland College Park, professor of sociology. Broadly, my research focuses on the social causes of health and health disparities, which leads to or relates to this session that we're going to be talking about today, which is the healing session. So the session is just about that, right? It's about thinking through and strategizing ways, for members of the Black community, as a whole, to optimize our health and the strategies that we can use to enhance our spiritual, mental, physical health. So I have this illustrious panel of scholars and educators who can help us talk through some of these strategies. I want to just briefly introduce each of the panelists. So on the far end there we have Tariiq Walton. So Tariiq is a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist and the director of Insight Marriage and Family Therapists, LLC. Tariiq specializes in couples work with a particular focus on mindfulness, communication, emotional regulation, and building intimacy. With 3.5 decades of on-air experience, Tariiq formerly hosted and produced his own arts and culture television talk show, Views and Vibes, and currently hosts the Kings of the Heart podcast with fellow LCMFT and friend Dr. John Hart, while also hosting / producing the Insight Guided Meditation podcast. The author of 4 books, including It's Just a Damn Date, Why We Expect Too Much Too Soon. Tariiq is a sought-after lecturer, panelist, and media personality. So please give it up for Tariiq. In the middle here, we have Kolleen Barclay, who is a school psychologist at KIPP DC, who gives students the support they need by highlighting their strengths and promoting growth. She learned French throughout her life, got a BA in French from the University of Maryland, and spent a year teaching in France. Then, she earned her Master of Arts in School Psychology at Bowie State University. No matter what point in life she was at, she always had an anime or Korean drama on her watch list. Some of Kolleen's favorite animes include Demon Slayer, Black Clover, and Fruits Basket. Give it up for Kolleen. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Antoine D. Taylor, who earned his BA, MA, and PhD in psychology from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Currently, he serves as a VA health and neuropsychologist, a professor at UMBC, and a director of assessment at the Institute for Healing, iHeal. He provides neuropsychological assessments and therapy for adults centered on coping with chronic illnesses. His research interests pertain to sociodemographic disparities in systemic and brain health outcomes among minorities. Outside of professional endeavors, he enjoys food adventures, cocktails, tennis, professional wrestling, video games, anime, time with his friends and family, and the pursuit of joy. So please give it up for Dr. Taylor. All right, so the way that the panel is going to go, so I have a few sort of opening questions that will get the sort of panelists going, and I want to make sure to leave time for you all to ask questions. So I'm just going to start broad, and just ask you all, thinking about the title of this session, what does living a healthier life mean to you, particularly within the context of your work and within the context of Black communities? So I guess we can start on the far end here with Tariiq.
All right, thanks a lot, Nick. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Glad to see you guys here on this Saturday morning. I'm glad everyone made it, and thank you guys for the invitation. Living healthy to me, let me start here. When I talk to my clients and we're having conversations around what's going on in their lives, I always start off with, what is your vision for your life? Where do you want to be? What do you want to see? Where do you want to go? How do you want to feel? And so when I think about my own vision, my vision is about how I want to feel. And I know the things that I want to feel every day center around being fulfilled. And so when I think about being healthy, I think about all the things that I have to do in order to reach that sense of fulfillment. So whether it's getting up early in the morning to go to the gym, my wife is here. Shout out to my wife. What's up, man? That's my Jasmine to my Huey. I think about, you know, the meal preps we do. I think about the rest that we get. We gotta rest. I think about the way that we make sure we're educating ourselves. I'm currently working on my PhD. My wife is in school too. We're making sure that we're feeding every part of our lives. You know, academically, where we live, what we eat, how we work out, our mental fitness. And when it comes to being healthy, it's a matter of making sure that you're tapping into all of those different areas every day as much as you can and finding a balance between them. Not saying, okay, I gotta do everything all together, but making sure that you're finding a balance, an equitable split between all the different kind of activities that lead to you being and maintaining your personal health. Oh yeah. So right here, what you have, I do a lot of work from the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. Have you guys heard of the 8 Dimensions of Wellness before? Are you familiar with it? Basically, it's a framework of looking at maintaining well-being throughout your entire life. And so you have, let's see if I can remember it, even though it's right there. You have educational, you have financial, occupational, social, mental, physical, environmental, and spiritual. Did I miss anything? I said financial first.
Checking them.
Feel free to fact check me. Fact check me is what you need. I don't mind fact checking. But making sure that you're engaging in all of these activities. We can get deeper into what they all mean, but making sure that you're on a daily basis thinking of some way to make sure that you're engaging in these activities, knowing that they all overlap in some way. But in order to actually be able to be at your optimal sense of wellness, you got to think like this.
Right.
Thank you, Tariiq.
So when I think about this question, the first question I have in response is, what is health? You have mental, physical, emotional. Those are the 3 that come to mind. And what is health? I think simply what makes you feel good. What actually makes you feel good. So there are things that we do every day. Some of them contribute to making us feel better. Some of them make us feel worse. I think the key first is to be aware. How you feel before you do something, how you feel while you're doing it, and how you feel after you do it. This can apply to food. This can apply to what you do on your phone. This can apply to pretty much any aspect, a substance you put in your body, anything. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel better? That's the first question. And that is how you take care of your health. If it's making you feel worse, you're going to notice everything else trickle down. Your physical, mental, emotional will all be impacted one after the other. If you take even the smallest action, adding a vegetable to your plate, when you don't usually add vegetables to your plate, you might start noticing a difference immediately. And sometimes, you know, there are people who can work out 4 or 5 times a week. I know some of y'all are there in the audience. I'm not one of those. But at one point, okay, I want to be healthier. First step, okay, incorporate at least a little bit more activity. How can I do that in the simplest way? I don't have much time. But, okay, I'm going to get out my car, and instead of going straight in the house, I'm going to just circle the block. Already, I did something that improved my health. So these are like small daily things you can do. And maybe one day, okay, now I can walk half a mile. Another day, now I can walk a mile, because you start incorporating more and more activity over time. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on just trying to change your whole lifestyle, make a 180, like, okay, I'm gonna go vegan, I'm going to work out 4 or 5 times a week, I'm going to get off social media immediately. Start small. Think about small steps you can incorporate. Notice how you feel when you're on social media. Maybe filter some things out. I can go on and on, but that's the first thing I think about when I think about, okay, how to live a healthier lifestyle day to day.
Thank you, Kolleen. Dr. Tim.
So I feel like I'm really just going to kind of give a summary of what my esteemed panelists are given. But no, you're good. You're good. Doing your job. So I always think that for my patients, I tell them to be physically, mentally, and socially active in the pursuit of a value-driven kind of lifestyle. And when I say a value, it's really about what is kind of like your driving North Star. And an exercise to try and figure that out is like, if you were, having a retirement party, right? What would you want people to say about you, and more so a descriptor of you? Kind of things that are not easily like attainable. Like, I can't say like, oh, I want to be a doctor. Okay, I can just go to school and do that. Once I become a doctor, I'm a doctor for good, unless I do something ridiculous and they take my license. But that's like more of a goal. But a value is kind of more like, I want to be kind, right? And so that is something that you have to work at every single day, whether it's small steps or large steps. But as long as you are doing something, again, within those realms that, all 8 of these realms here that allow you to get closer towards that North Star and things that you want to do in life, I think that's really how you try and find health. That's really how you try to find joy, how you give back, not just to yourself, but also to your communities at large. But yeah, that's maybe kind of what I think of.
Yeah, that's all really interesting. And each of the panelists were distinguished between the different dimensions of health, including physical health, emotional health, mental health. And I want to hone in on the mental health component, because mental health, I believe, has become sort of like a hot topic of the within the last decade, and something that's constantly talked about within the Black community in particular. So in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions or stigmas surrounding mental health, or even health more broadly, in the Black community, and how can we begin to challenge this? And I'll start on this side with Dr. Taylor.
Ooh, there's a few that come off the top of my head. First off, that somehow having mental health concerns make you weak or lesser than. That's a white people thing. Or you can simply pray it away. Other things that come to mind are like, unless it's like super severe, like I'm talking like, like a schizophrenia or something else like that, like that's the only thing that counts as like mental health, not like, I'm just kind of like down, or I feel a little like anxious. Like that's not mental health or mental health concerns. But I think we do a lot of minimizing a lot of the concerns that we go through in kind of this pursuit of feeling like we're okay. And I think it's okay to not be okay. And in fact, I feel like that's a way for us to actually try and build community with other people, just by taking that step and saying like, hey, I'm not okay, even if it isn't a diagnosable kind of thing. Like, we all get down, we all have our blind spots and growth edges. And I think just talking to other people, loved ones, or, even though I just said like you can pray it away, but if a faith leader is important to you, sure, go to them, but you really just want to just like get it out and talk to somebody. But those are the things that kind of come to my mind.
Thank you. Can we want to go?
I feel like a lot of the minimizing that we speak of in the Black community when it comes to mental health, it comes out of fear, because it's something that we don't fully understand. It's something that may feel out of our control at times. It feels like no one talks about it. We don't know about it. We don't have a dialogue around it. And so this thing that's unknown, now what do we do with it? Our actions tend to be to ignore it, pray it away, as he says, maybe some toxic positivity even, like, you'll be fine, it's okay, just, as the title says, drink some ginger ale and lay down. But
and walk some more.
Exactly. But I feel like the key to now changing this narrative is educating ourselves, learning more about mental health. What does it actually look like in front of you? It's not just schizophrenia. What can this look like? And it even presents differently. For example, depression presents differently in Black women than it does in other demographics. It can look like us being very functional, and we're doing everything, taking care of the family like normal, but deep down, we feel this weight. And it's hard to even understand because it's not what we see on TV when we think about depression, so how can we identify it? So that sort of education, I feel, is necessary in our community first.
So I do a lot of work with brothers. I was doing a monthly discussion at a barbershop in DC for about 6 years until last year. And one thing that I heard from brothers a lot was that, what are you gonna be able to do for me? There is this misconception that going to therapy, working on your mental health, isn't gonna help their situation. There's so much that they're going through that sitting down and talking about it isn't gonna move the needle for them. What they don't realize is that by sitting down and talking about it, one thing that happens is you kind of just get it off of you. But secondly, you're sitting down with somebody who can give you a whole different perspective that you may never considered before. That may help you with a new approach to what's going on. So just the idea that talking, what's talking gonna do? Right? That's not gonna help, but it can. That's one of the main things. The second thing that I think throws people off is trust. We have a really horrible history of working with the medical field in this country. We can talk about and we can talk all day about some of the things that they did to us, right? So there's this major distrust of working with people who look like us and work in the field that we work in. Even though we do look like you, there's still this question of whether or not you have my best interests at heart, right? So one of the things that we have to do, going back to the education, is helping them understand, look, you may sit down with somebody and they may not be able to help you at first, and you have to build your relationship with different people, but if you find the right person, they can help you in so many ways that you probably never considered before. But it's first getting in that door, taking the chance, and then realizing, there is something I can get out of this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all really, really insightful. And each of you sort of briefly mentioned, solutions to sort of reconciling some of these issues. So I want to build on that a bit because it is a healing session. So I do want to think through and provide solutions to some of these problems. So how can we work together across therapy, education, media, and community spaces to shift the narrative around Black health, especially mental health, toward one that's more healing, preventative, and sustainable? Do you want to start, Kolleen?
The first thing that comes to mind is compassion. So having compassion for one another when you see someone having a hard time, even if you don't see them having a hard time, because mental health can often be masked, just check in with them, have community, check in with your community consistently, make sure that they're okay. Let them know that you're there for them, even if they seem fine. And just continuously build that community. So that way, when they do actually need you, they're not thinking, oh, I don't have anyone to go to. They remember what you said, way back when, like, okay, come to me at any point. So that's at least the first part. Did I answer that?
To some degree, a physical problem, right? Like we've had sprained ankles, broken bones, whatever it is, and that's all well and fine to talk about and go to the doctor about because it's been normalized, right? To some degree, I know sometimes though because of the medical mistrust, it's like, oh, if I got some pain, ginger ale, crackers, lay down, walk it off, right? But again, it's more accepted, and I think again, exposure is the word that by doing so, we'll make it as common as a broken ankle to just treat, and people will feel okay going to see a therapist to try and just deal with whatever's going on with them. Sorry if I took the
Nah, you know what? I'm gonna say exposure as well, but come from a different angle. I got my own thing. So when I think about exposure, I also think about going to where people are. There's so often, either if I'm doing a panel or if I'm doing a discussion somewhere or if I'm doing a radio show, where people will say, again, I never thought about it like that, right? And so it's really about helping people wherever they are, meeting them wherever they are, and saying, hey, this is available to you, and there's a reason why you want to do this. People, going back to being educators, right? When you work with people, let's say, middle school, high school, if they have never thought about college, if they've never been to a college campus, if they never met anybody that they knew who graduated from college other than their teachers, they're not thinking about going to college, right? It's about the exposure. Once you bring them to a college campus for a tour, now all of a sudden, oh, this is possible, right? You have to open those doors for people sometimes and walk them through it. You don't know what you don't know. And so by actually exposing people to this field and the benefits of it, and they learn about it, they're educated on it, now they may take a chance on it. But if they don't know about it, what are they gonna do? Right. So we have to go out there, we have to be more mobile. You know, we can't sit in our ivory towers of academia and wait for them to come to us. No, we have to step out into the community and make sure that people are hearing about what we're doing, why this is impactful, and how it can change their lives.
And I want to sort of build on that point, because each of you talked about, right, exposure, but also community support and building that community. So in your own work, how do you see the importance of community support in the healing journey for Black individuals? And what can we do to actually cultivate more supportive spaces within both, fandom, the BlerDCon community, but also our broader communities? And, sort of building on that, how can Black people in fandom spaces like Blerd Culture use their love for media, pop culture, to promote physical and mental wellness, rather than use it for, perhaps things like escapism? Like, how can you use it to actually leverage or promote health?
I actually, no, I'm sorry, I cut you, no.
Go ahead. It's all yours.
I actually really love the last part, because I think it's something that I do in my day-to-day life. I love watching anime, I love reading manga, I love watching like WWE. I've done it since I was like 3 years old. Got a championship belt for every single degree I got. But true story. I think it's more than escapism for me, right? It's mythology, it's encouragement, it's a way of life, right? I work out pretty regularly, and sometimes I will just honestly listen to like WWE promos while those are like going on, right? Or I try to take something from every single like anime or that I watch or like manga that I read and actually like add meaning. It's not just to, turn off like from the world. Don't get me wrong, that is indeed great, because sometimes you just need to sit down somewhere. And at the same time, I just try to incorporate it into like how I see the world. We talk about the shonen anime protagonist who is always kind of like, you know what, you can knock me down, but best believe I'm getting back up. And I really, really incorporate that into my life. Or even my favorite DBZ character is Vegeta, right? And so you have a bit of an ego to you, right? Where it's like, okay, you tell me I can't, and I will show you that I can. And so again, just trying to take every piece of something or take a piece of something from everything you watch and incorporate it into your life, so it actually has meaning, and it's not just I'm just sitting down, zoning out, and just watching for the story. So that's at least something that I do on a day-to-day basis.
And I would like to add on to that, because you actually took a lot of my points, but
my bad.
No, it's perfect. It means I just say less. So I feel like there's everything that we do gets pushed into our subconscious one way or the other. So the messages we're getting from songs, the messages we're getting from people, the messages we get from anime, the things that we watch. What's a common trope of the main character in anime? Naruto, what's his superpower? He never gives up. A lot of them never give up. And so now, when we enter a rough time in our life, our subconscious, deep down, whether we're listening to it or not, it's like, this person's not giving up just yet. At least I felt that. I don't know about you all. Have you? Yes. See, it's there. It comes out. And so I feel like it's not just escapism. It's definitely not just escapism. We're building our character through what we are nurtured with. And so I feel like there are many valuable lessons learned throughout animes. So of course, pay attention to what you're watching. As I said before, how are you feeling before, during, after? Are you feeling more motivated, positive? Think about it next time you watch something. Think about while you're here. How are you guys feeling right now?
Fantastic.
All right, fantastic. Think about how you feel after the convention, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
That's the first part of your question again?
Yeah. So in your own work, how do you see the importance of community support in the healing journey for Black individuals, and what can we do to cultivate more supportive spaces within both fandoms and our broader community?
Okay, there you go. That's the part I want to touch on. So one of the things that we have to make sure that we're doing as clinicians, as educators, is that we're aligning ourselves with other people who are of like minds. You have a lot of community organizations out there, like the one I was working with for the barbershop, starting with today. Working with these community organizations and building the foundation for the things that we want to do, you know, grow and being able to grow from there. But we have to be able to connect with them. I was just doing, talk about being in school, I was just doing a paper on social justice movements. And so I was focusing on the Young Lords organization, which was a former gang that turned into a activist group in both Chicago, New York, and some other places. But one of the things that they did that really stood out to me was they didn't just go in saying, oh, we know what the problem is, let's go fix it. They went out and surveyed the community to find out what their needs were and figure out, okay, we're thinking this, but you're saying this. Like they had this big, back in 1970, they had this big trash cleanup thing, right? Where they basically shut down this intersection in East Harlem, piled up trash and burnt it, right? To get the attention of the city. But the only reason why they did that is because the residents of East Harlem were saying, forget everything else. Forget about police brutality right now. We want to get rid of this trash. Our kids can't even go outside and play without tripping on something, right? So involving community directly, getting involved with them, talking to people who are either working in the community or who are actually part of the community and pulling them in to what it is that you want to do. Don't feel like you have to take this all on your own. This isn't all on your back. Not one of us is responsible for carrying our entire group, our entire people, right? There are other people, and just go back to the discussion earlier, there are a lot of people who are already out here doing the work. Align with them, help help grow their organization, but don't feel like you have to start over from scratch. There are people who are already doing it.
Thank you, and I just have one final question before I open it up to the audience. So what are some practical action items that Black people can take to improve their mental and physical health and emotional health starting today, and how can we make these practices a regular part of our daily lives?
I mean, I think you're already doing one just by being here. Coming and finding community with people who look just like you, who have similar interests. Just that in itself, I think, can be very, very helpful. You know, I don't know about y'all, but I know that like growing up, like I was teased for loving the very things that I think we all love today. And it's always warmed my heart, especially as I've gotten older, to find other people who are into the same things. And that's kind of like boosted my mental health. I also think on a day-to-day basis, kind of like what we said earlier on, of just small steps, right? Of just things you can do on a regular basis that improve your life, give you joy of just like, hey, if I just want to go for a walk to clear my head, if I want to just like pick up the phone and call somebody, if I want to play this video game and actually try and get something out of it. Just again, trying to do as many things you possibly can, also try and find as many Black spaces as you can. I made a very concerted effort to do that, especially as I went through my graduate school journey where sadly the trend is the further and further you go up in education, the whiter and whiter it gets. And so I made a concerted effort to seek out like-minded, like Black men. I joined a fraternity, A but it was something that was very, very meaningful to me to find that community. So again, something I said earlier on, physically, mentally, and socially active, and just doing those things on a daily basis.
I feel like I answered this question the first time I spoke, but I can add on to it. Because like I said, I could talk about it all day. So when I think about the community piece and finding like-minded people, I feel like you first have to have that goal for yourself. Who are you looking for? What kind of people are you looking for? And then eventually you'll start seeing that they're right in front of you already. Or when you go into new spaces, you know who to connect with. Don't be afraid to ask for their social media handle, their number, whatever it takes. Stay in contact. Even if it's just little comments here and there over, a few months, and then you guys have a conversation, whatever it takes. Build that relationship over time, so that way you may have a friend in the long run who you can talk to about anime or whatever you choose. And also to add on to that, I feel like also noticing the value you have within yourself is very critical. So first, I'm just thinking about the wonderful people here in this space and some of the things I know you all do. Some of us are into politics, mental health, finances, education. We have so many skills, medical field, and we're all people of color, we're all Black. So it's like, who would have thought that all of us could gather here in this room and I'll have all these commonalities, you know, the love that we have for anime, gaming, cosplay, whatever it is, and we're all so excellent still. We're all very competitive in our fields. We all have that drive, ambition. And I feel like first recognizing that and recognizing that in other people can also help just, I'm looking for a word, and I can't find it.
Solidify?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's like, we're just so excellent. And just noticing that, that's all I can think of is just excellent. But noticing the power that we have and the skills we have and just boosting each other up. I feel that's so important because oftentimes the world around us, the spaces that we go in, will tear us down. And I feel like we can all relate to that. So just having a space where that doesn't happen at all. In fact, the complete opposite happens. Noticing the value that you bring to that space and remembering that so that way when you go into a space that's not always for you, but is rather against you, you don't falter. You don't buckle down. You remember to not give up.
That resilience.
Exactly, that resilience that we learned from Naruto is still there, deep down the subconscious. So that's what I have to say on that. And I'll pass it to Tariiq.
Thank you. Practical. So kind of going back to where I started, thinking about how you want to feel, having that vision for yourself. You know, you want to talk practically. Figure out how you want to feel. How do you want to feel every day? And then you design a life to do that. Right? If I were to say right now, okay, I want to go to San Francisco. Right? That's my vision. I want to go to San Francisco. Well, how am I going to get there? Oh, I got to draw a map. I got to go look at a map and figure out the path to get there. Right? So once you have a vision, now you have the ability to figure out what are the steps is it going to take for me to get there. And so figure that part out. Know where you want to go, and then design a life that allows you to actually feel that. That's the most practical thing you can do. If you're just sitting around waiting for things to happen for you, that's not the way the world works. You got to go after things, right? But you have to have a plan. You have to have a vision. Then you have to have the discipline and the structure and the goal to go right after it, right? The gumption, right? You gotta have the gumption. You have to have that. You have to have that motivation. But once you have that plan, know that you can do it as long as you, well, I don't want to say you can all do it because there are going to be roadblocks sometimes. So you may have to figure out a different way to get around. But know where you want to go and that you have the ability to put yourself in a position to get there.
Yeah, I really think there's a saying that comes to mind is that you have to make time for your wellness or you'll be forced to make time for your illness.
Yes.
And so you really have to be intentional about that plan because eventually your body's going to break down and you're going to be forced to sit down somewhere. And we really want to be proactive and preventative instead of reactive. Amen. So please make time for yourself. Take that time. Boundaries, everything else be damned.
That's right.
Sit down somewhere.
Yeah, that intentionality and that effort of everything.
Yes, and I feel to add on to that, noticing what you are like when you are stressed is very key.
Yes.
I would even say write that down today. What are you like when you are extremely stressed? What are you like when you are like mid-level stress? And then what are you like when you're chill? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, just write out your behaviors. Like, okay, you might start sweating when you're nervous. That's like probably a 4. You might start, I don't know, some people will pick at their skin or bite their nails. That might be a 6. Some people will freeze and like just not do anything. That might be when you're at a 10 and you just like hyper focus on something. Like you have to think about what are you like when you are stressed. And then that way, when you are actually in that state, you can recognize it. And then that way next time, before you get to an 8 or 10, you recognize when you're at a level 3 and you do something about it instead of waiting until it gets really bad.
Regulation, emotional regulation.
Yes.
Awesome. So I do want to open it up for questions from the audience. I think we're doing a line down the middle here. So if you have a question, please line up and we will get to you.
Line up, everybody line on up.
Yeah, we got time.
We're ready for it. Come on.
Thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. Bless you. This is a truth or fancy question. Not true or false, but truth or fancy, which means in the imagination. Animes never give up or beat the odds tropes and its connection to the runaway slave, I will get there, and those slaves who made it through slavery, I will not die, or this will not end me. Truth or fancy?
I feel like that's a truth. That's a good one. Yeah, I won't let this end me. I love that. There's another saying that says, like, I smell like smoke because I've been through fire. And it really speaks to that resilience of
A statement, or that's fine. Okay, we can try.
So I know you brought up Naruto, and that touched me a lot because I was watching a Toonami when I was a pharmacy student, and that never giving up part. And I'm autistic too, so it really speaks a lot. So I got my doctorate because of that, and I got my doctor of pharmacy degree 12 years ago. So as an autistic pharmacist, anything's possible. I just wanted to bring that up, and thank you for doing this panel, and thank you for bringing up Naruto.
Thank you for sharing. That made my day.
Yeah, again, thank you. I want to thank the panel here for showing up today. My question is going back to mistrust with the medical institutions. What are your thoughts around when we go and seek out medical professionals who don't necessarily look like us and they're dismissive of any of the symptoms we may be describing, and how that might contribute to the health disparity between Black people and maybe other groups?
Ooh, yeah, it's messed up, and it's very complicated, right? Because I think about it from both ends, right? From the patient end of being dismissed and having their concerns minimized, and furthering that medical mistrust. And then I think about on the provider side, particularly like a Black provider. For a lot of my patients, I am the first like Black clinician they've ever like had in their entire lives, and it's a bit of a catch-22, because while I love doing the work, it almost becomes like a bit of a burden, right? Because now it's like, hey, every Black patient wants to like come to me because I'm pretty much like it, right? And so I want to be there, and I want to validate like all my patients and take everything I can, and I do. It's just after a certain point, yeah, like now I'm gonna be burnt out, and that's not gonna serve patients well either. And it's really, really hard. I think it's more of a systemic issue that we have to address, and we have to get more people who look like us, and despite what the current administration is trying to do, we have to increase diversity so we're not overburdening that system, and people can indeed get the validation they need by seeing someone who looks like them, or bare minimum be someone who is culturally aware and has that cultural like humility to say like, I don't know what's going on, please tell me, inform me, and I can use what knowledge I have to help you in the best way I possibly can. Long story short, I think it's, again, systemic. I think we have to work from the top down.
Yes, I completely agree. And it becomes tiring for everybody because we get burnt out on both sides. tired of looking for a doctor after doctor who's going to believe you, or even if it's not a doctor of color, but at least someone who understands the struggle or understands the disparities. Even that's difficult to find. And it all becomes tiring, but it's a systemic issue, as you said. And so training people who look like us to become, people of power in those positions is very important. Thank you for Doc McStuffins on Disney Channel. So, truly, little things like that, they nurture minds like my nieces. And she can become a nurse. She is not going to let anything stop her, but she still has like a good 20 years before she can really help anybody. So, little things like that, I'll say just encouraging the community around you. Anyone can become anything. Even if you think that, they have a disability or they have bad grades in school right now, or they used to have bad grades. If they have that drive and they are willing to learn, they can actually do it. So don't just dismiss them just because they've been dismissed. Lift them up and they will get there and they will support others. Say that again.
So I'm currently in a counselor education program designed to go train the next, group of therapists, right? One of the things we come across constantly is cultural competence, right? Making sure that whoever we're training, if I'm training people who look like me or who don't look like me, making sure that they're culturally competent, so then when they are in front of people who look like us or who are of ethnicities that aren't of their own, that they are either aware or they're willing to ask questions to become helpful. Because what happens is, when you meet somebody, if you go see a clinician, if you go see a doctor, and they're not culturally competent, but they think they know everything, of course it's going to turn you off to the whole process. So you may not go back, right? We want to prevent that from happening as much as possible. So being able to train people to be more culturally aware and more competent will help move that needle a little bit. It's going to take some time.
So my question, we talked a lot about mental health today, obviously, and one of the big access barriers for a lot of people, and especially a lot of people of color, for mental health is just, mental health still is kind of looked at as this thing. Like, for example, I have Kaiser Healthcare, right? And with Kaiser, they like, oh, you got mental health problems?
I'm sorry.
We don't cover that. You better, that's your problem. Like, pay. So, there's lots of things right now. There's growth therapy and better health and whatever, those type of things that are trying to increase access, but still for a lot of people, $150 a session is unattainable, and so what are your thoughts or ideas for how to, kind of like a systemic change, like you just mentioned, like bring about change of that issue within mental health therapy and things of that nature?
The first thing that comes to my mind really quickly is there are specialists who will do pro bono, for example, sliding scale. Look for those. There's also graduate students who will, in training, who will also do it for a lower cost or no cost sometimes. You have to, I guess, think about different spaces that exist rather than the ones that are put directly in front of you. So it takes some, out the box thinking, but there are ways. And then there are also specialists who do volunteer work. So they will, do some free services for a certain amount of clients every year.
Yeah, the clinics on university campuses are often very available and very affordable to everyone. So look at the college campus. I know at University of Maryland, the program I went through, the American County Therapy Program, they have its own clinic where you're charged on a sliding scale, but you start off at $20. But then they have one in the psychology department as well. And so you have these community. They have these organizations that are open to the community in general. So just keep your eyes open for them.
What they said.
I have two questions. My first question is, what are some specific habits that you do on a daily basis, or action items, for your well-being? And also related, what are some things you've done in the past that you no longer do?
Something I know that is very, very important for me, much to my wife's chagrin sometimes, is I work out 7 days a week. It's it just makes me feel better. It you know, even after work, it's just like my time to decompress, come down. I'm not doing anything like insane, right? Like I'm not doing like CrossFit, like, you know, for 5 hours a day. No, it's sometimes just like, all right, I do like a 30 to 45 minute workout. I get on the treadmill, just walk, and I'll just be on the phone catching up with news, things like that. Or on Saturdays and Sundays, I just walk on the treadmill, and that's when I watch my anime. And that's something that's meaningful to me. It helps me decompress again, know that I'm doing something good for myself that will benefit like future me. And that's something I try to make sure I do just about every single day.
Okay. I like to give myself grace. So, of course, I want to work out every day, or, you know, do a 10-minute dance workout, something. I want to meditate. I want to practice breathing. I want to eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. I want to, you know, I want to be at my A game. Imagine if someone was to do that every single day, though. They would become exhausted. Being healthy is exhausting if you do it wrong. So once again, do what makes you feel good. Instead, change your mindset now. Maybe try doing one of those things a day. See how you feel. Give yourself grace. Set a low bar to begin with, and then start raising it once you build habits. So that is what I would say for advice.
And just piggybacking off of that, I think a way of thinking of it is what I get to do as opposed to what I have to do.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So it's like, okay, like I get to eat these fruits and vegetables. I get to work out. Also, like, make sure y'all eat your fiber, please.
Yes.
Fiber. I know we talk about protein, but fiber.
Fiber.
Really helpful. But I get to do these things, and it's really a celebration of your body, your life, and what you can do. So just that reframe also helps.
Yes.
I don't work out 7 days a week, but I try to get in 6 days. You know,
Great.
My wife is the personal trainer, so you know she's making sure that that's happening as well as eating well. So getting in and working out, trying to meditate as often as possible. Here's a big one. I go to a job that fulfills me. I'm not going to a job that I'm stressed out. I mean, it's just a lot of work. I ain't gonna front. It's a lot of work taking on all these people's lives. But I have my proper boundaries, you know, and I'm able to let go, I'm able to compartmentalize. But I'm not going somewhere every day where I'm miserable. So I make sure that I'm in an occupation that fits me and that feels good to me. I live in a neighborhood that I feel comfortable in. I'm not going home feeling stressed out and worry about if somebody can break into my car or am I gonna get robbed as soon as I walk, you know, down the block. So every single day, again, I'm making sure that I am curating a life that allows me to feel good and feel healthy. So the one thing that I don't do anymore is take as many naps as I wish I did. I come from a family of nap takers, man. Napping is the best thing in the world. Nappers, yes. Y'all my family now. I wish I had more time for naps. I'll just tell you that right there.
So I think it's the signal from our director to wrap it up.
Not yet. We're not done yet. We're not done.
So there's another panel after this one at 11.
We do have time for one more question. Okay, so yeah, and then after that we'll wrap.
I will be quick. First, big ups to this. This is lovely. I love
Thank
this.
you.
I'm all here for it. Sis, you were talking about how you were asking the clarifying questions of what makes you feel good. I'm very much aware of like what feels good. Like, I'm very pleasure oriented. But now I'm entering this next phase of my life. I feel like I need to become more disciplined. Mm-hmm. I give a lot into my pleasure. Like if it makes me feel good, I'm gonna do it, and I'd be up in shit. But I want to become more disciplined, and 7 days a week. Like how can I get there? How can I get disciplined to where like I know I feel stronger when I work out. I feel better. My brain feels lighter, but 7 days, that commitment, that discipline, I'm trying to get there. So do you have suggestions on that?
One step at a time,
Right. No,
one
sorry.
day at a time. Just noticing or knowing that it's more so about the consistency, right? Like even if it is like, okay, if I do 3-4 days a week, if I do every other day, eventually, okay, cool, I can do this every other day, and then maybe add an extra day here or there, just starting slow,
Right.
building up to it, and then it becomes almost like a routine. It's a habit, and hell, you'll feel off when you don't do it, and that's really how you build discipline. It's just consistency. I know it's 7 days a week now, but it wasn't always like that, and now it's to the point where I do it because I want to keep that streak going. I gamify a lot of things in my life. I got an Apple Watch, and I just want to see how high this streak can go before it ends, and not because like, oh, my body broke down or something like that. I don't push myself that hard, but yeah, I just want to just keep that discipline going. So just day by day, step by step. And then you'll look back and be like, oh wow, I came that far. Like a year ago, I wasn't working out at all.
Right.
Now here I am 5 days a week even. That's amazing.
It's important to also understand what discipline is.
Right.
Discipline is saying that no matter how I feel, I'm still gonna go do it. Right?
Yes.
So often we give up or stop just because we don't feel like doing it.
Right.
Talking about giving into pleasures. Hey, I like to sleep. I want to sleep in. Right? But I'm not giving into that. I'm saying there's more that I want, so I'm not giving myself that out. I'm not making that excuse. Despite how I feel, I'm getting up. My alarm clock goes off, I'm not laying there any extra time. I'm not hitting the snooze button, I'm getting up. Right? So you can't give yourself that out. Right? So if you talk about staying disciplined, that means that no matter how you're feeling, you're still gonna go do what you said you're gonna do. And do that consistently.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't get it twisted. I don't love doing it every single day. I tell you that much. But you know, I don't like it.
Love, right?
I do it like I love it because I know it's good for me.
And like you said, you get to do that. Like this is versus, you know, something else.
Yes. And your best may look differently every day. You may not give 100% like every single day to every single move. But even if you give in 70, 30, 80 another day, 100 another day, it varies. Progress is not a straightforward path. So be open to the way that it bends.
Are we finished?
Please give it up for the panelists.
Thank you so much, everyone. Just wanted to hop in really quick to say that if you enjoyed this conversation, if you got any value out of it, please follow up with us.